I can hear the whistling again. It's the final weeknight, and again, he has come, whistling that little ditty, repeating it again and again, enough times to drive the sanest of men crazy. I can see through the window, the light through the cornfield, the rustling of plants, the maddening whistling. It's all culminating to a feeling of hopeless dread, like being faced with a gun while you're up against a wall. I know he wants to find me, but I don't know what he wants with me. I don't know what he wants. All I want is for this to be over with. I can see the lamplight becoming brighter, the whistling becoming louder, and the dread I feel deep within my stomach is getting worse and worse every second. Only my need to keep quiet is preventing me from either screaming in fear or throwing up from the sickening tension. For a while, it feels like time itself is torturing me, making things seem slower than they actually are to keep my anxiety high. But then, it feels all too soon when he finally shows his straw face through the green fog-like plants. All I can see is his smile. A stitched, malicious smile. Probably sewn shut to keep his hatred from spewing forth. His dim lamp within his hands swayed back and forth as he came through the corn effortlessly, almost gliding through it like a ghost. It's nauseating, seeing his dimly lit figure run towards my tiny house, so gracefully and effortlessly. But it's even worse, trying to figure out what he wants from me. Does he want me dead? Does he want me to go mad? I don't know. But what's for certain is that whatever he wants is not pleasant. My gut tells me to make a run for it, but I know he's faster. I've tried escaping before, and those times have usually been the worst. Or at least, the most terrifying. I felt his cold, clammy hand on my shoulder one time. That's how close it ever got to me. He's at the door. I can hear it slowly creeping open. God knows how the hell he can open a locked door. But at this point, I'm too frightened to care. I hide in my cupboard, sweat dripping out of me like a water balloon that got punctured. The whistling is right underneath me, and the constant creaking of floorboards is giving me shivers every time I hear it. He's coming up the stairs, and I can see a dim light slowly creeping through the crack in my cupboard, brighter and brighter, the whistling getting louder and louder. Every nerve in my body was getting so tense it hurt. The light stopped getting brighter, and the whistling, it felt like it was almost right next to my ear. And then I let out a breath. The whistling stops. It's over. I don't hear his breathing, just his footsteps, getting closer and closer. A few seconds go by. No noise, no whistling, just infinitely tense silence. Sweat poured from my body as I knew my fate was sealed. And then the whistling began again. He walked away, leaving me in my scared fit. The door closes, the light fades. and I am left completely awestruck. Right now, I'm dreading the next week. Because considering how close he got this night, the next night, I won't be so lucky. I had the dream again, the little boy whispered to his brother, shaking him aggressively awake. I think I felt it this time. He hugged his older brother tight as the others sat up and rubbed his face. The little boy blinked rapidly to rid himself of the tears in his eyes as his brother rubbed reassuring circles into his back. It was just a dream, Richard, he insisted to the 9-year-old. It's nothing to worry about. But it was scary, Richard protested. The lopsided man came in the room and he grabbed my throat until I couldn't breathe. Richard, his brother growled at him. I told you to stop calling him that. The boy pulled away and crawled to the end of the bed, his lower lip trembling in a pout. Oh, that's just what he is, he mumbled. His shoulders, they're at different heights, and that makes him look really funny. I know that, but it's still not nice to say. His brother scolded the boy with a sigh, crawling after him. He wrapped an arm around the younger boy and let him lean on his shoulder for comfort. When are you going to be king, Edward? The little boy asked with a frown, turning his head to look up at the 12-year-old. Soon, Edward said, getting to his feet. It'll be soon. He wandered over to the window, looking out over the grounds of the tower. It was quiet, dead quiet. But Edward was certain that the guards were alert at their posts. I'm sure of it. You said it'd be soon when we got here, and that was 2 months ago. His expression changing from that of disappointment to that of irritation. And before that, you were here a month already. It's not up to me, Edward called back. Refusing to look at his brother, he hung his head and let out a heavy breath, fists unclenching. We're here until they coronate me. They're going to have to do it someday. They can't keep us in here forever. What if they never do? Richard asked, sitting cross-legged. What if the lopsided... He's our uncle, Richard. You need to stop calling him that no matter how he looks. Edward growled, spinning on his heel and glaring at the boy. I bet he wouldn't be very happy to hear you say that about him. I'm sorry, Richard said, looking down at his feet, a flush-covered face. Edward let out another sigh and climbed back into his bed. It was just a dream, Richard. Please, let us go back to sleep. Get some rest yourself. We'll ask about coronation tomorrow. Richard's eyes lit up. Really? You promise? He asked. Edward laughed and nodded, patting the spot on the bed beside him. Of course. Now come on. Richard worked himself back under the covers, and the brothers fell back asleep. In August of 1483, Edward V and his brother, Richard, stopped coming out of the Tower of London. Edward V's coronation never occurred, despite his placement in the tower assumed to be for that purpose. They were killed. Some even theorized that their uncle, Richard III, his spine deformed by scoliosis, had likely murdered them in the tower to secure his place on the throne. To this day, it remains a very tragic moment in history. Even now. No one quite knows for certain. I gave her the doll on her birthday. She loved it at first. She told me it was beautiful, that its hair was so soft, and the dress was so pretty. She wouldn't let it out of her sight for days. Through the daylight hours, she set it on the table so that she could see it while cleaning the house. And at nighttime, it sat next to her bed, watching her sleep with big blue, unmoving eyes. But my daughter's love for the doll soon changed. Soon I noticed something was bothering her. I asked, of course, but she wouldn't tell me at first. Said she was just being silly. I could notice that day after day she started being more reserved towards me, until I couldn't take it anymore. I pressed her, told her she would tell me what was going on right now, or I would drag her to a doctor. She finally broke down and, crying, the words came spilling out. She then told me it was the doll. It scared her. She told me she had the feeling it was constantly watching her. Sometimes it even seemed like it moved. This kind of creeped me out, and I went to take a look at the doll. It sat motionless on the little table in the bedroom, the big blue eyes unchanged. I couldn't help but sigh from relief a bit. Of course she's not moving. She couldn't have been. I turned to walk away, but then I saw a tiny movement from the corner of my eye. I turned back to the doll, picking it up from the table. I held my face close to the doll's, staring into the eyes. Something was moving. I tried to concentrate. I tried to look closer. Yes, there it was. Definitely. Movement. But not from the eye itself, but it was behind the eye. Before I could process this, the eye burst out, and out of it spilled at least 10 wriggling maggots. I dropped the doll in shock, backing away instinctively. My daughter screamed from the other room, asking me what was going on. I yelled it back at her not to worry. I picked up the doll again, using a tissue to wipe away the maggots. Inside, I saw more, pressing against the skin and plastic outer layer. So soon already. I had hoped this one would last longer. I'll have to get a new one for her. Maybe keep it alive at first. That way it'll last longer for sure. I threw away the old doll. I think about how my daughter said that she always loved the thick blonde curls of little Katie down the block. Doesn't she also have blue eyes?